All right, everyone. Welcome to our Cyberops training class for the week of, actually, just Thursday, 6/21. We're going to do some things today, a couple things. One of the biggest things I want to do is actually delve into the first couple chapters, and I'm not going to spend as much time discussing content with you on these. I would teach these because the content in these first couple chapters, I don't really think you need to be taught. You know this information already. I do think, just as a quick, not really show of hands, but and you can put it in the chat if you want, but just a real quick set of information here. Oh, and I hope my audio is not cutting out intermittently. Hopefully it'll clear up. But one of the things you'll notice is that these labs are very different than labs you have done in the past. You also will notice, oh, it's in and out, Greg? Ah, man. Okay. Okay. I'll try best I can, folks. I'm sorry. Let's see if we can. Let me see if was it better when I was not sharing? Okay. Linda says hers is clear as a bell. Okay. Well, let me try it again here. Maybe it was part of, as I went to sharing, that caused it. Like I said, if you will, please mute yourself. Okay, cleared up. Good, good. All right. So, like what we've got here are activities and case studies. These are more research labs that your students will be doing. What I like to do, and what I always do for myself personally, whenever I teach a class, is I download all of the labs, and I download them into, I actually put them on my Google Drive, Google Ops. But I download all the labs for myself and get them just so I can pull them up and look at them. This is doing at the Cisco Live is we built PyTops. So if any of you follow my Twitter feed, you will have seen that I was building PyTops and they were building PyTops. And so dealing with these things that are becoming more and more common. For instance, I don't know about any of you, but I have 2 Google Home devices. I have all these other items on my network. So this will be for you as for your students. Some of this will be, especially if you have already taught a Security Plus class to your students. If you've taught that to them, Chapter 1 is a great deal of review. A class that is a Security Plus class or the Introduction Essentials. If you have not taught those two, then you need to spend more time on this particular chapter. Otherwise, it's pretty easy for you to go through this and blow through it pretty quickly. I would spend some time personally, though. This is a great place, I think, on this particular section to go over newer hacks or newer threats that have just come out. So, like, for instance, in the last couple of years, ransomware has been really, really big. And that's something that kind of happened in a hurry, to be quite honest. Then you had, we've had on our campus, in fact, phishing attacks, which have really taken a huge jump. Exploit kits, the ease of ways of doing exploits. So this is a good place to do that. This lab, the very first lab, is also where you will, oh, that's really good, yeah. It says, Greg talks about weekly discussions for students, security breaches, GRC, et cetera, yeah. What's the newest thing this week? What's the newest threat? Unit 42, which is a Palo Alto research group. The Talos research group from Cisco, very good. CERT, all the new CERT items coming out. This is also where the students will load their first lab that allows them to use VirtualBox. And this lab, I'm going to kind of walk through very quickly. How many of you have done this first lab? Okay, so a lot of you are saying you've got it done. Okay. Just remember, here's one thing I have learned. If you have an issue, especially if when you load the machine, you did put it on, yeah, definitely. Greg has put it on YouTube. And Greg, I got to send that out to everybody. I'm sorry I haven't done that. That was part of my things I meant to do, where you converted it to VMware. But if you get to loading it and it stops loading the RAM disk, more than likely the problem you have is you do not have virtualization turned on in your BIOS. So be aware of that. I've seen that probably 6 times already, these set of classes that people will go load it. So what I want to do real quick is just show you how you would do it. So you've got to download and install VirtualBox. And VirtualBox is just a free software, virtualization software. It's host-based, so it's loaded on top of the operating system. You go File, Import Appliance, and then you'll go in here and find, for me, it's under my Cyberops VMs, the Cyberops Workstation OVA. And then you just import it, and you do need to reinitialize the MAC address. Oh, that'd be great. That'd be great. If you can send me that. And then import. Now, it takes a while for it to import. And so it's going to do this, and we'll go ahead and let it do it. Folks, I also want to tell you, I've got all the images downloaded to make the, in fact, I'll tell you what I did actually. On Monday, I went to work Monday morning, downloaded all the images, and was going to urgent care to get checked, and I planned on going back that afternoon to load the NetLabs labs for this particular class. And of course, I never made it back to work because I was at the hospital. So hopefully next week when I get back to work, I'm out to at least Tuesday. Hopefully I will be able to get that loaded. So I apologize for that. All right, so there we've got it. And this particular machine will be the machine that you use for all labs except for the Chapter 2 labs. Yep, I mean just change network settings here. It's trying to go across the, it won't run across my wireless adapter, which is fine. So if you have a wireless adapter, you need to change it over. And then it's an Arch Linux version. So I couldn't find Cyberops in. You have to. They will actually send it to you. Okay, there's a very good, here, I'm going to put this actually into the chat for everyone. Here's a good link from Greg. Harry, we had to send an email directly to Cassia, and then they sent us the direct link. So they had to send you the direct links and the password to it. So, all right, and then this is just Cyberops. So it's Analyst and Cyberops. And then you're into a Linux box that is used for a large number of the labs. If you don't have a lot of RAM on your machine, this will be an issue. So be aware of that, as we've discussed before. But you'll see here, if you get this, because it's trying to load a wireless NIC, you have to change it to a different NIC. So just depending on which one you want to use. Now, the good news is, again, that's the main one you'll need for all the labs 1 through 10, chapters 1 through 10. Some of the other things I would go over in chapter 1, and the big one I would go over would be talking a little bit about the Internet of Things, about how that's growing, learning about this, which is a very important thing, and that's the difference between personally identifiable information and protected health information. Now, I'm not going to say anything, but you need to know what PII is, and you need to know what PHI is, and that is protected health information, because you're going to see, if you happen to watch the videos for CCNA Cyberops, for some of the training that's out there on, where was it? I was on INE, or it was on one of them. That was actually called personal health information, PHI, but it is not. It's protected health information and personally identifiable. Again, I would just, you need to know that. Other items here is this process, people, and technology, looking at the elements of a SOC. So this is where your students learn about a security operations center, what it is, how they're designed. If you can get your student to a SOC, we were lucky enough to see the SOC for Palo Alto Networks when we were out there. I've seen a small SOC for smaller companies, but the neat thing is every company has it different, but this is one of the things that you need to know, and that is that we're training our students to be this tier 1 analyst. So they're going to look at incoming alerts, verify that something actually happened, and then if it did happen, forward that up to a tier 2 incident responder. And those folks are going to go into a deep dive on the incident and then make a decision about where to go from there. Tier 2 incident responders may pull in SMEs, or tier 3 subject matter experts. So someone who is a network SME, threat intel, a malware, an endpoint, and all of these folks are managed by the SOC manager. So one of the things I like to teach my students is, where's my career path? And that's, we're really teaching students to have careers, not just jobs. And so they need to realize they may start their life as a tier 1 alert analyst, but their goal is to move up, to become a tier 2 incident responder, and then maybe even become a SME, so that they're able to then move there and move up. Are there any questions about these? I've looked at a pretty good amount of different security information and items, and I don't know if I've seen the actual diagrams of what's in a SOC before I actually went through this class. Yeah, maybe I was just reading the wrong thing, but. And again, we see how the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 work. Okay, and depending on what company you're with, tier 3. If you're a tier 3 working at a company like somebody, say Palo Alto or Cisco and Talos, you may actually be developing the hunting for new threats that can be blocked or stopped with the products that are available from the vendor. SOC monitoring systems. Here we look at these security information and event management systems, or these SIM systems, how they pull all this in. And as we move forward, we will use SQL and we'll use others to be able to pull in different pieces of information so that we can determine did an actual event occur. There's so much data. And this is one of the things where there was a great deal of information at Cisco Live about artificial intelligence, about the need to use artificial intelligence so that you can determine, what is this data? Is this data relevant? Is it valid? And not only doing that, but how do you respond to an artificial intelligence attack? And then here's a little bit of Cisco's always one about, here's the management, or not the management, but the marketing. Every class got a little bit of marketing. Okay, option download into a zip file. No, that's not really available anymore. Yeah, definitely, Greg, hit NDG, see what they say. All right, question about running it on a Xenon processor. Shouldn't be, not that I know of, Tim. They should run fine with 16 gigs of RAM. Let's see, yeah, a couple errors in NDG version labs. Don't tell me that because I reviewed them, please don't. Oh, wow, that's cool. That's a good pass. Say that you're in the SOC, then you go to a pen tester. Yep. Very much so. So security versus availability. This is something I didn't realize is that 5 nines means that you're down for 5.256 minutes, I believe it is, per year, which is pretty amazing. So, and you see here it's talking about different levels, different items. And then the certification. Now, one of the things I do want you to be aware of is this certification is 2 exams, and you do get vouchers for both. And I do know that this is not correct. It is now the CYSA Plus, because CSA Plus was actually, or CSA, was owned by somebody else already, so they had to change the name. So, but if you have the CSA Plus book, it's the same exact exam, they just changed the name. I really do think I've actually got, Greg, that is an excellent question. I'm having the same issues. You're talking about drag and drop. I'm having the exact same thing. It'll work on some machines, and it won't work on others. So anybody else having that issue? You can see here what it's doing. It's almost like and I don't know why it's quit working on this PC, but it does work on my ones in my office. Okay, Sean says it won't work. Open source SIMs. Everybody throw one out there. I know SQL's one. Okay, you upgraded Flash and Java. That's probably what I need to do. Is there a PDF or hard copy available? Where books are available, and you can order them from the Cisco Press area, and those are the books that are the same as follow the curriculum. So, yeah, OSIM, that's a very good one. OSSIM. Oh, wow. Okay, so it works on, drag and drop works in Firefox, but not Chrome. Go figure. Some other things I think would be good, obviously degrees. Yeah, Safari Books online is just phenomenal. It's crazy expensive. It's like $40-something a month, but it is crazy expensive. So oh wow, now that's something I hadn't tried. Oh, now that is wild. It must be related to a touchscreen. That is wild. Okay. Well, at least I know that I can drag and drop my finger. All right. Python, huge. The other thing, don't forget, folks, the emerging technology workshops that are inside of the Cisco Academy. How many of you are familiar with those? Got some. Bruce raised a hand. Using it. Okay, good. You've seen them. Good. Those are really good to get your students into, especially for the programming portion. Okay. So it's something they can do, and it's a workshop. You can drop it into class. Doesn't have to go through a curriculum review because it is a workshop, not a class. So kind of nice to have. I have to admit to have not gone through either one of them, but actually I started the first one, but not the second one. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on Windows, folks. I believe, again, remember when we talked last week, we discussed the fact that I believe this course needs to be in the final semester or at least the second part of a 2-year degree, so that your students have had, Windows, they've had Linux, they've had the Security Plus class, they've had those. And if they've had that, then this particular section is not going to be a big deal. The big deal is this. These labs, you just loaded that entire workstation VM, or the Linux VM. However, you come to the second chapter, and you are required to have a Windows box in order to actually do the labs in this particular chapter. Okay, please mute yourself.
They're behind the horse trailer.
Hold on a second. If anybody needs to talk and I've muted you, just let me know and I'll unmute you. Okay. Now I know this is about a religious debate as to which is better, Windows or Linux. Regardless, guess what? They're both out there, and you need to know both. I think they both can be just as vulnerable as anything else. It all comes down to not being patched, not being correctly implemented. A10's better than all. No, Atari is better than all. You're right. That's the truth. I think I told y'all last week I won an NES Classic from a company at Cisco Live. So that was probably the best part of my live last week, considering how bad my leg was hurting. But yeah, I probably spent more time on the Atari than any other computer. I do like this. I don't, I'll be quite honest with you, I don't teach the Windows courses anymore, but this is all same stuff that I used to know back when I had my NT MCFC. So it gives you some idea, but the idea of all the different hardware abstraction layers, user mode versus kernel mode, the fact that items in kernel mode can access system level memory and those types of things and cause problems. User mode items all should all run in their own memory space and not be able to affect other items. There's been some movement, some file system drivers have moved in and out of user and kernel mode, depending on what they are. But different types of file systems, especially the NTFS system, looking at what can be read and not. So you see that Windows can read X data, which is basically Linux. You got the HFS Plus, Hierarchical File System Plus, XFAT, extended version of FAT, and then on down. Now, NTFS is what we're going to have everything pretty much formatted in at this point on a Windows box, and you have to understand that you do have what's called the MACE, which is Modify, Access, Create, and Entry. One of the things these are very, very useful for is because they can hold metadata, and that metadata can be used to keep up with different items. That's how, by the way, the BTK killer was caught. He sent a Word document, and that Word document had metadata that had the MAC address of the machine it was created on, which was tracked back to a PC that was bought at the church he was a member of, and that was then used by the authorities to figure out who he was, and they had some suspicions anyway, but they used that to track it down for sure, and then basically that's how they caught him. So that metadata is something that can be stored inside of the NTFS file system. Other items that are kind of interesting, and this is really interesting, is the fact that you can do alternate data streams. So you can actually stick a file inside of another file and hide it to make it a little bit harder to see. It doesn't mean that you can't see it at all. It just means, yep, malware can do the same thing. Malware can hide stuff inside of alternate data streams to make it more difficult for anti-malware and anti-virus software to find it. But then it's pretty neat to be able to do this, and there's an entire lab on it where you actually use an NTFS system and you put into the alternate data stream data that is hidden. So neat for your students to see. Quick question, how many of you, if you don't mind, just real quickly, put down that you have a computer forensics class out of the group? You could raise your hand too if you want to do that. I'll pull up participants and I can look at your hand. Just raise your hand if you have a computer forensics class in your curriculum. Okay. So 1, 2, that's 3. It's about 3 or 4 of you. 4, okay. The four of you that do, if you will, post for me what you're going to be using or what you use for computer forensics. We are starting a new computer information systems security degree, and I want to just kind of see what's going on out there, because our new program head is always looking for new information. So we used to teach taught by the Criminal Justice Program. That happens a lot, John. That's one of the things we kind of had. We had a cybercrime degree, and we taught it there. They taught NCASE and what was that? It was computer ACE. Was it the ACE exam? I think it was accredited computer examiner or something like that. So access data, that was it. Yep. Thank you. All right. That's what we taught too. You're using the book from Cengage, okay? MindTap Lab, master level. All right, that's fine, Trevor. But SIFT workstation, okay. We've got a system that actually goes through and can copy hard drives and everything. It's a full forensic system that we have for that other program. We may have to update that and use it. As far as this part right here, I don't think the students have to learn this entire thing. I do think you'll notice any of you that teach Windows, if you are teaching a Windows class, they already know this. I might spend a little time talking about UFI or UFI. That's why I say it. I'm from the South. I can't help it. Because it's kind of the replacement, the Unified Extended Firmware Interface. It's the replacement for what we used to call the old BIOS. The good news is it can have more security features. The bad news is it has the possibility of having issues too. So it can be, there's all kind of information. Okay, that's one thing, Greg, I was thinking about was NDG labs. They do have NDG labs for forensics that I think are pretty good. But this should be already taught to your students. The issue you're going to have if you try to teach this class before a student has had a Windows course is you're going to have to spend a lot more time on this chapter. I'm blowing through it right now because, again, I don't think you need it. How many of you are, well, it's kind of be hard to kind of say, but I'm sure most of you had at least a Windows class in your career. So most of this should be, yeah, everybody's got a hand raised. Most of the MCSC, okay. I had my MCSC for years, and I let it go because I just wasn't teaching that. Brian Crump at our school teaches that too. So I'm in MCSE 2000. I think that's the last time I had mine. So I need to go back and get it. It's just one of those things where there's only so much time in a year. These are all good. These are MS config tags, things you can see. One of the things you do need to know are the parts or the hobs of the registry. So we're going to talk about those more in a minute. But this HT_local_machine, which controls the configuration information about the services, start with each boot, which can be an important thing, especially when malware tries to infect that and tries to make itself be able to survive a reboot. HT_current_user, also an item services start when a particular user. So there's kind of two ways malware can do, and that is, you can try to put yourself into the HT_local_machine startup, and then it will affect every user, or you can try to go into the current user, or if you're smart, you'll go in both. And in that way, if they get you basically out of one, you are able to survive that and go and infect the machines. You do have the ability with MS config to go in and actually turn on individual items, a system configuration tag. Instead of doing a normal startup, you can do a selective startup, and you can actually go through and load each individual items as they load. You can do a safe boot, no GUI, all of these different items. You can actually turn off different services. So if you think a service is actually malware, you can turn it off and then see if that is possible. Oh yeah, good gosh, excellent idea. And Greg just made a point, and his point was show students how to back up the registry before labs. Amen to that. Okay. Yeah, it's that's one of those things I strongly recommend even before doing the labs in here. Now the beauty is, especially if you're using NetLabs, you're going to have a Windows box in the NetLabs that if they destroy it, it'll just restore the snapshot. I would also even suggest if you're teaching this in the classroom, I would actually load a Windows box in VirtualBox or in VMware Workstation, whichever one you're using. That way you don't have to worry about them messing the machines up. There won't be a big deal there. So let's see here. Yeah, agreed. Totally agree with John. He said he was an MCFC NT in 2000. You just can't keep all the certs up. Cisco Competition, yeah. I've lost my VCP. I actually lost it back in February. And that's on my list of getting back just because that's one of my mercenary certifications I like to keep in case I need to go somewhere else. I did read something today I thought was interesting. Northern Virginia Community College, I think it's NOVA, I think it's what they call themselves. But Northern Virginia Community College has started the first cloud computing 2-year degree in the nation, and they partnered with Amazon Web Services to teach it. So I thought that was very neat. So, the one I need to get back is the VCP, VMware VCP. I had the VMware VCP 5.5, and I let it lapse. I've got the VCA 6, but the foundations, I just got to get the VCP. Take it again. Yeah, that's. I probably need to go that route too, Greg, which is CISSP. And like I said, the good news is I kept my CCNP, so that one's current. So SysInternals, I do think that using the SysInternals program that they show you in these labs are excellent. They are a great way to show your students what's going on. They're also fully supported by Microsoft. They didn't used to be, but actually the guy that does SysInternals now is a Microsoft employee. So you can download all the tools and use these as SysInternals Live. And so it's neat to be able to do that. For years he worked on his own and did his own thing, but then Microsoft decided he was so good they'd just hire him. All right, now know these. Know the hives. Know the fact that HKey_ current user. Yep, MS owns it now because, well, that's because they hired him. I think though, Greg, I know it is the desktop optimization toolkit, but if I'm not mistaken, as part of hiring him or something, they agreed to always put out a free version or something similar. It's not as polished, but yeah, don't quote me on that. But for some reason, I vaguely remember that. I vaguely remember that when he went to work for them, that was one of the requirements. Is somebody saying something? Hello? Okay. So, current user holds the data about the currently logged on user. Okay. User data concerning all user accounts. Class's root is OLE registration, so object linking and embedding. That's the one that's kind of a little weird, but it's the one where programs do their linking to different items. And I'll be quite honest with you. That one's the one I'm not completely clear on, is the class's root. That one kind of always throws me for a little bit of a loop. Because I'm not a programmer, probably. Local machine, system-related data, and current config is the current configuration that has been booted. Okay. Okay, I'm going to mute everybody. Okay. Any questions about those? You need to know these. I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay. Again, this is old school Microsoft stuff right here. This is stuff that object linking and embedding, classes root. I think it was John that told me about using my finger. I really appreciate that. Current hardware config, user accounts on the host. That is just crazy though. Ooh, I got that one. I got those back, but I'll move this one. That is nuts that it works with my finger but won't work with the mouse. That's crazy. That must be it. It must just be that Flash isn't connecting to the mouse. But it's definitely connecting with the finger. So, who knows? You know, it's one of these things I tell people, we don't want this stuff to work all the time, otherwise we wouldn't have a job. If it gets too easy, anybody can do it. Give Flash the finger. That's a good one, Tim. I'm gonna tell you that is a good one. Here's a big one here. Running as administrator by default. It works with a mouse on a system that doesn't support touchscreens. Okay. Yeah, they're working on getting rid of Flash and they're working on getting rid of Java, which won't be a day soon enough for me. It's one of the things I love about the new NetLabs version is the lack of Java. I told one of the guys at Cisco we were doing something in the DevNet area and he said, "Yeah, this requires Flash." And I looked at him. I said, "You know, Flash is of the devil, right?" And he about lost it. He started laughing. He said, "Yeah, it's bad." Oh, I know what it was. It's viral. It was one of the viral guys. They were talking about doing an HTML5 interface to get away from the Flash Maestro, and I said, "Yes, please." So, just the other day, I had a program that I couldn't get to run, and definitely Cisco needs to get CCP and SDM away from that. Yeah, no, good point, John, about the logs. Their logging capability right now is not real good on the new VE version, but it's getting there. Just make sure you keep it up to date because they keep adding changes every day. So, but run as administrator, I had just by default you should never run as administrative privileges. So you can right click and then run as admin. And I can't remember what I was doing the other day, but it kept failing. And I finally had run as admin, and when I ran it as admin, it worked. And it just, for whatever reason, I wasn't thinking clearly. So here's local users and domains. Again, if you've had a Windows 10 class, students won't have a problem with this. Now, this is where things get a little interesting when we start talking about PowerShell. I've got a book that is Teach Yourself PowerShell in 21 lunches or something like that. Unfortunately, I've only made it to about 2 lunches. PowerShell is an amazing thing, and it's something that we use all over the place. We use it in VMware to attach to the VMware appliance, VCA appliance, and use it to then run items inside of our ESXi host. You know, we can do things like automatically create snapshots, delete snapshots, all kind of crazy stuff. So this is really good. Now, luckily, one of my previous instructors, let me see if I can get to it. Probably won't be able to, but I'm gonna try to. We'll talk about it in a second. But there are 2 extra labs, PowerShell labs, that one of my instructors in a class in the spring gave to me, and I put them into the class. There's nowhere to upload those. They're optional. You don't have to do them. But they're there, and they're especially there for you to give to your students if you want to give them to your students. That's a very good question. Greg is asking, has anyone else used a little set of Windows 10 labs on NetLabs? I have not. I would like to see them, and I need to load them because I've got the image, but Yes, that would be good. Yeah. If you can send me that. Hold on one second. Let me stop sharing for just a second. I'm going to go and check something. See if I can't open up another window. Everybody grab a swig of drink or something. Give me 1 second to check something. There's more people on that. You said you put some people in there, Greg. Did you like it? You think it was worthwhile? Give me 1 second, folks. Sorry. All right, I'm back. I thought we might have them loaded, but no, we did not. So sorry about that. Thought we might have those labs loaded somewhere on one of our systems, but we didn't. Okay, if you if you can send me that, that would be great. Also, we need to talk, Kay, because you have some open exams from another class, so we got to figure out where those are at. But those extra labs are there for you. They're really good. You can use those. This command, the net command, to be able to use like Netstat, net accounts, net share, net start stop, net use. These are all good because these are commands that can be used to not only hack things, but also they can be used for you to see if anyone's got connections to your machines, and also what's open and listening, especially with Netstat. Task monitor, task manager. Be aware they are doing the labs with Windows 10 Task Manager, but if you've got Windows 7, it's similar, but it's it's not the exact same thing. You can go through here and look different items, see what's actually running, what processes are running. You have to be able to see. You can change your update speed. All different options here. We can show. Let's see, where's my? You can run a task. This is something I've had to do before when my desktop locked up. I can run a task and then do Explore and then open it up. Showing my old school now. But the labs are there. You can look at the resource monitor, seeing what's using resources. And then, of course, the networking. So basic networking all the way through. One of the things we did at one of our contests is we put multiple IP addresses on a Windows machine, which you can do. A lot of people don't know how to do that, but you can actually do that. I think it's up to, used to be up to 4 without going in the registry, and then you could do 6 by going in the registry. I think that's what it was. So, and I think that's still fairly common. Remote desktop. Interesting thing there. I was actually connecting to my desktop at work and had to put in the full domain name, or actually I had to put my name at the domain.stanley.edu, which was new for the second one. But I will say this: the nice thing about the new RDP is my RDP now keeps scales correctly on my screen, whereas before they did a couple updates, this high resolution screen was not good for that. And then they do a little thing on different types of servers. Okay, so Server 2000 versus 2016 versus 2012, etc. We have just started teaching 2016, which I know sounds crazy, but you know, a lot of companies are slow to go to it. So, and then we have labs, user accounts, PowerShell, task manager, and monitoring system resources. So then we get into this command, which is probably one of the most important, this Netstat, especially with the ABNO, which lets you see the process ID of the process that is listening on that port. It shows you all the ports. So if you try to get me a command prompt, Netstat -A, I'm just going to do ANO. You can see all the different ports listening, TCP and UDP ports. You can see what process ID is associated with it, which is important because you can use that to go over and find the process ID here, okay, the PID that's associated with it. You can see sub-processes if you need to. There's sub-processes. But you can go find the PID, and then you know what's actually listening. So we can look for 1096, and we know that's the service host remote procedure call, okay? And we can see that that's the PID, and we can see that it's listening on port 135, which is, honestly, that makes sense for RPC. So I'm not going to freak out about that listening on that port. What you have to be careful of is when you start seeing wild ports that you don't really know or understand that are listening, or ports that are open that are not, should not be open. Let's see here. It says, interesting, you can install Kali Linux and Windows servers. I know. Yeah, I saw that. The Kali Linux and Windows, it's a Kali Linux app for Windows 10. It's just weird. Yeah, it's really, really weird. Greg, I saw that the other day. And then it says SysInternals works great. Yep, it sure does. You're right. They basically just give you a better version of ANO. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Kay, for doing that for me, if you will. Yeah. They didn't just have them deactivate your exams. And I'm glad to hear you're going to be at skills. I think you missed the first part of the call. I will not be going to skills this Sunday because I've been ordered by my doctors not to fly because I have a blood clot in my right leg. So I will not be going, unfortunately. I really wish I was going to. I really wish my pie tops had come in because I was going to send those as prizes. But I may actually try to send those to each individual winner, see if I can't get their information and send it to them. So I'm glad you're doing better. So yeah, if you'll contact them and just have them turn those off. And as soon as they do that, yeah, I was hoping we could catch up too. But as soon as you get that turned off, let me know, and I will go in and immediately turn the exams on for you. Okay. I couldn't do it the day I tried. It was you and Richard. I think Richard may be in the same class, Richard Ost. So yeah, safe travel. Like I said, I hate it. It threw a real kink in things this week. Trust me. Local security policy. Again, if you've been in a Windows class, you know you can do all kind of wild things with this. You can set the length of the passwords. You can set the amount of time between password resets, the minimum time for a password to be valid, the maximum time for a password to be valid, all kinds of things that can be done. So pretty neat little thing you can do. Yeah, it's okay. I can tell you, I told somebody earlier that my the spinal cord injury I have is just the gift that keeps giving. That this is one that they have no idea why it happened. So that's even crazier. So Windows Defender, honestly, it's not bad. Most definitely. Oh wow, cool. Greg's saying that this is the meat of Cyber Patriot. Yeah, I can see that. You're talking about this? Are you talking about the Windows portion? It's the meat of the Cyber Patriot, Greg. This was a big part of our cybersecurity contest for Virginia Beach. A very big part was Windows. And then we also had a big part that was Linux. So, local security process, okay. Well, it makes sense because it's very hard to load in the kind of environment the Cyber Patriot has. And again, I'm not super familiar with it, but it's hard to load a big Windows domain area and set that up and have it for each student. But you can have them do local security processes. So I do turn on the firewall in most cases. Leave it on. Yep, standalone machines, that makes sense. Because again, it's hard to do it in a different environment. My goal is to build an environment that will work in NetLabs that allows for more realistic environments, so more enterprise level environments. Excuse me. So different processes. We've seen things twice. Remember what happens when we see it twice? You're probably going to see it again somewhere. So they're asking you for those items. So be aware of that. Any questions? No questions. All right. I want to go ahead and just real quickly blow through Linux because I think, how many of you, I'm going to pull out the participants, show of hands, how many of you feel pretty comfortable with Linux? Got some hands here. Okay. 7 or so. I'll be up front with you. I can make my way around it. Ooh, that's bad. Okay. Fuse your back, I know that. You're taking Linux Essentials? Okay, Ann, that's good. That'll help a lot. The Linux Essentials again will help a lot with the with this. I do think you'll get some from this that will help you too. I thought that was really neat. He said, "Yeah, I love how the labs were built right in, and it's working." So, can y'all hear me? I'm still here. Hello? Yeah, I'm here. Okay, sorry. I want to show one thing before we do this. In fact, I may just stop here because we are at an hour, and I want to try to be cognizant of your time. I have not graded anything, folks. I apologize. I do want you to be aware that all of our course items have due dates. The due dates are listed here under the modules. Okay? So under the modules are where they're due. So we got Chapter 3 labs. In fact, we're good because Chapter 3 is not due to this weekend, so we can actually hold off. The other thing, there were some questions about how do I see what I missed. What you should be able to do is go under Assignments. This is what I've been told. Go to Assignments. Go to the exam itself. So go to the chapter exam. Click on it. And then you should be able, if you have taken the exam, you should be able to do either Assessment Viewer or this should show you your summary right here. So those of you who are looking for a way to see it, it used to be we went to the grade book, and in the grade book you clicked on your score, but now you go to Assignments, go to the chapter you want to look at, and then on the right hand side there'll be an item showing you, like, show individualized performance summary. So, and I don't have that here because I'm the instructor. If someone doesn't mind, I'll take somebody's. And I'm not going to show your grades. I'm not going to show anything about it, but I'll take over as somebody. I'll just grab somebody that's here. Harry, do you mind if I become you? Harry Banks? Harry, I think you're here. It was.
Okay.
That's okay? All right. So I'm going to go to Harry. And if y'all haven't done this before, one of the things you can do is you can actually act as a user and then proceed. And at this point, the system actually thinks I'm Harry. So I can go to assignments. And I can go down to, let's see, I'll do chapter 1 exam. Chapter 1 exam. Undated. Oh, that should be dated. No, we'll just go ahead and grab that. Chapter 1 exam. And then see your assessment history right here. If you click there, it should show you what you've missed. Okay? Any questions about that? Let's see if there's stuff in the chat. You have to have a role. Okay, Greg, I'll go and actually become you, and then that way I can actually show your grade. Role quality. Okay, let's see. Well, so good. Oh, you must be in my other class. All right, Bruce, I'll use you. This is something that you've never done before, and I'm sure most of you have done this, but it gives you a chance to see what the students are seeing. And you see exactly what they see. And it should be, let's see, assessment history. And you can actually see exam and I believe you click on that, you can actually see your item feedback. And you'll actually see the questions themselves and what you missed. Now, it won't show you everything. It only shows you the items you missed. Okay, and they've changed that so that you can't see every question on the exams. I guess if you missed every question, then that would actually give you a chance to do that. So, thank you, Bruce. All right. Are there any questions? Let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. Are there any questions? All right, for the certification exam, what study materials? I've used the certification exam guide for SEC 250, 210, 250. I don't like the 255 book at all. Oh, you got to have Netstat Success Lead, okay. I don't like the 255 book. Why doesn't the modules tell you there's an exam? It should tell you there's one at the bottom. When you go into modules, let's share desktop again. Each one of them, let me power this thing off. Each module, the way I've laid it out, I've got the chapter, and then down at the bottom there's an exam. Chapter exam. Then I've got chapter exam, each one of them. So every single module, the way I've laid it out, there is a chapter quiz and a chapter exam. Does that make sense? So I do have them listed in every module. Okay. Any other questions? Does anybody on this call not have access to Netstat for any reason? Because I've only got 69 people. Yes, Bruce is asking, I missed some labs due to due date. Yes, most definitely, Bruce. The other thing is this, realize again, I'm not expecting you to do all the labs. If you do about 80%, I'll be happy with the labs. I know you're busy and I know you're all teaching, so that's not a problem at all. I'll cut you some slack if y'all cut me a little slack on the speed I get the grading done. How's that? The one thing we really have to do is to make sure that when you take your final exam for the class, you really want to try your best to make a 75 or higher. That way you will get the vouchers for both exams, and you want that. You want to get those vouchers and those exams, so you want to try your best to do that. I have turned on all the chapter exams, and I've turned on the practice exams and the certification practices. Someone asked about what did I use to prepare for my certification. I actually used the practice certification exams in this curriculum, and it was good. It was really good. So, okay, folks. Here on the East Coast, it's hitting 9 o'clock, and it's 3 o'clock, I guess, in Hawaii. So, and everywhere in between, it seems like we got folks everywhere. I hope to see everybody next week. Please make sure send me any and all questions, and we'll do our best to get them answered and get them back to you. Trevor, I appreciate that. Yeah, I would play the cripple card and say, I've got an injury, but I won't do that.